Okay, so today I am going to be painting Paisleys and Polka Dots Bee Hive Hut for a cross-stitch display. This finish white size here of this board is 5 inches, 5 3/8 of an inch by 5 3/8. So it's a nice square. So a 5 by 5 cross stitch would be perfect on here. And we can make this like our backer size. So I am going to be doing mine a bit different in color. I'm not going to do the yellow for the background. I'm actually have chosen this. It's called Succulent. It's a matte finish folk art. You can use any acrylic paint. A spray paint for these kinds of items works really good. Gives you a nice coverage, nice even coverage. But I am going to brush mine today and we're going to be putting it together. I'll show you the steps right from the beginning to the end. And then I've chose coffee bean here for where she has the brown on it. So those are going to be my two colors. And then the black, I'm gonna do black where she did the black there. And then the bee, I will do like she has. But I think I'm gonna try, instead of a yellow for my bee and for the honey, I thought about trying this. It's brushed antique gold. But it is, quite like very yellowy gold, but it's got some shimmer to it. So I'm gonna do that for my honey. I'm gonna see how I like it. If I don't love it, I can just easily paint over it. And then once I paint those, I'm gonna see if I want to do my bee this same kind of bright gold. So I'm gonna try these colors, see how I like them. The nice thing about it is if we don't like it, we can just paint over it and try something else. But I thought this would be a fun color to try. So let's get started with this today. Now some of the display pieces work best to like glue them all together and then just spray paint. If you're doing all one color, that's great. This has lots of different color components to it. She gives a nice overall picture here, and then a very well thought out, laid out display of all the pieces and how to go about painting them. She's got a beautiful description, easy to follow, and then if you ever have any questions, her website and email are down on the bottom as well. So Paisleys and Polka Dots, they have great tutorials on YouTube as well for different painting techniques and assembly of these products. So definitely check those out. We are going to go through and finish this one up today. Also, I will say too that she does list all the different colors that she uses for this. So if you want that exact look, they're there. You just go and purchase those colors and then you can achieve that same look. So that's really nice as well. So she does recommend a larger size brush to go for smoother strokes as opposed to a foam brush, but does say use whatever works best for you. You can use a smaller brush for more detailed areas, the smaller stuff if you need to. And then try and keep all the brush strokes in one direction to keep a smooth, keep it looking smooth. She suggests painting the sides of our piece first before the top surface. So attach the wood pieces together using liquid glue, such as Aleene's Tacky Glue. So I have some of that here today, or Crafter's Pick Ultimate. I used to use this all the time, my typical wood glue. This works great, but it does dry yellow, so you have to be very careful not to get spillage out with something like that. So just make sure whatever glue you are using that it is dries clear, or you have a wet cloth to do the wiping. I use baby wipes to just clean up as I go when I'm painting. you can spray it with a clear coat after if you'd like, and she gives the one that she uses there too. So very good thought out directions, and like I said, lots of tutorials online, so feel free to check those out as well. I think I'll start with this brush. Okay, let's start with our white first. So I've kind of gone, so these are going to be our, and then these are our browns, and these are our gold. Okay. Oh, and I already did it wrong. You're supposed to do that side of the pieces first. So I find the side pieces here definitely are a little more porous, so they kind of really soak in that paint. So we'll definitely need to do 2 coats once it dries. Now I just realized too that I did just go and put all my paint right on this piece. I would recommend having a palette that you're dipping your brush into and then painting onto the piece. Then that way you're not getting that excess paint on there. And then when I went and realized I needed to paint my edges first, you're not getting any clumping or streaking buildup of the streaks. So just went and made sure I got all the like excess, any little drips or anything. So I need to put that to the side until it dries, and we'll do a second coat later. All right, so now we're gonna go around and do the edges on these pieces before we start painting the tops, just to make sure we're getting a good coverage on the sides. They are a little bit more porous, so they do tend to soak that paint in a little bit more. And with them being darker, we just want to make sure we get a nice coverage on the sides. I would recommend doing a second coat for sure on your edge sides. And depending on the finish too, you might find, or color that you're using, that you do want to do 2 coats. Some paints are a bit thicker than others as well, so keep that in mind. You might get a really good coverage on your first go. We just want to make sure while we're doing it, we're trying to keep everything in a nice smooth direction, going all your brush strokes going in the same motion. It just keeps everything a little smoother when you're doing hand painting. You could absolutely be doing a spray paint as well for this, and that would give you like a perfect smooth finish, and it's a lot quicker and easier. Yeah, so we're just gonna go through and get everything covered, let it dry, and then we'll revisit and see what needs to be touched up along the way. But again, just make sure after doing that top coat that there are no drips or gobs on the sides of your pieces. You want to make sure you don't have any big extra drips and clumps. Move those out of the way, and we're just going to continue on. I have to get a little bit better with my filming there. A lot of times I work up in closer to my looking at it myself, and I have to remember to put it under the camera. So I apologize. I'm still working on the tutorial side of filming, so I will keep that in mind and try and do a little bit of adjusting for my future videos here. As you can see, I'm out of the camera again, but I am just trying to get those edges covered, and this one has the little insert pieces there too of the little hexagons, so there's a little extra detailing trying to get in. Again, with my tutorials, they are more or less come craft with me kind of style. As of right yet, like a lot of these projects I haven't done before. This is my first time putting this hut together. This is my first time for picking like the different colors for certain pieces and stuff. So as I'm learning and putting it together, you guys are along for the journey with me in that. So there is a lot of in the moment decisions that I'm making, which we will get a glimpse of how the direction of this piece is kind of going to change here as I go through the painting process. Okay, so I actually think this color kind of turned out a little bit more green than what I was wanting. I think I want more of like a bluey. I've got these two colors. I'm going to try them out, but I think what I might do is leave this undercoat and then do the crackle on top. So then it'll crack. The lighter will be on top, but then this color will pop through the crackling and it'll give it that worn, weathered look. So I'm going to go ahead and try a few things here. I'm going to sample these colors on a piece of scrap and see which one I like better. So first off, we're going to go and do the clear of this, the top, the crackle coat medium on here, and then leave it to dry for about an hour before we go and do that one. So I'll get that on these before I go and paint all the other pieces, and then by the time I paint all the other pieces, probably be time to come back and do that. So with the crackle, I find the more you put on, the heavier the coat, the more crackle you get. So the lighter the coat, a lighter crackle. All right, so we are just going to paint on that clear crackle coat. Make sure we're covering all of our edges and the top, trying to create a nice even stroke of it so that the crackle will even be kind of even throughout. As I was saying, the thicker you go with the crackling medium, I feel the thicker cracks you get. So the bigger, more heavy cracking. If you want a more delicate crackle effect, then do a very fine, thin coat of the medium. It's a very easy medium to use. It's not like sticky or tacky or clumpy or anything like that. So we just want to make sure we're getting it on all of our pieces and kind of in a even from piece to piece. So now it does not take a lot of crackle medium to do a project like this. You can get it in a smaller bottle, and by all means that is more than enough for a bunch of projects about this size. I did a lot of painting with it. I kind of went down the crackle painting with everything, and honestly, after seeing how this came out, I do believe I'm going to use it a lot more. If you did get this bee hut for the bee farm finish, you can absolutely feel free to just do a regular painting coat on it as well. It's whatever your personal taste is. The crackle effect does take a little bit more just because there's extra step of painting in there. So now I'm just going through and painting our base color of the hut onto the back of the board. You don't have to leave the roof line. It is the back of the board, so if you wanted to paint it all one color, it's not that big of a deal. But I wanted to try and create the roof line so that I could keep that. I'm going to end up doing those roof pieces different colors, so I just wanted to try and recreate that same look that it's going to have on the front of the board on the back. So this is the back of the Bee Hut now, the main base. Again, I put my paint directly on the piece, but I would recommend using a palette, a disposable plate. You can get little plastic ones at the dollar store, an extra piece of wood. Sometimes I even just will use a piece of cardboard or whatever I have. You will see in my videos too, sometimes I just put the paint right on. Like today I have the brown paper down to paint on, so it's just an easy cleanup for me when I'm doing projects like this. I did a lot of painting this day, and it was just easier to put brown paper down, and then I can just clean up nice and quick and easy. So I definitely recommend doing something like that for your space. I know with my kids, I always use the plastic tablecloths you can get at the dollar store. I have like 2 of them, one for downstairs, one for upstairs, that we do all of our crafting on and painting, and they're just wonderful because you can get as much paint all over them and just fold it up and put it away for next time. So, and then when it gets really ratty or tacky, then you can replace it with another one. Very inexpensive way to keep your surfaces clean and tidy. So here we are again. Now I've gone into doing the base piece. So I've started with the coffee brown color that I shared with you guys in the beginning there. And I'm going around getting all those edges again. Now with this piece, we're not going to go in those little grooves in the center. And that's because that's going to be where our legs and our main hut, the center of the main hut, connect. So we want to try and avoid getting any paint in those 3 slots in the center there that you're seeing me paint around. Just because if you were to get a gob of paint in there and it dried, it would make connecting those pieces a little difficult. Having that extra thick, like having something in there where the piece is supposed to connect. It's the notch for the slot for the little notches on the legs and the hut piece there. So if you did get paint in there and you weren't able to get it out, we could always go in and like sand it down a little bit in there, but you just want to try your best not to get any paint down in there. And it's really easy to paint over top of them, just with nice smooth brush strokes, and you won't have a problem. Now we're just going through and painting the rest of the little pieces. So this is the little roof to the hut that'll go on the front to add extra dimension to the piece. We're just going and doing that brown, that coffee brown on all the edges. One of my biggest suggestions too with painting is always have baby wipes handy. That's what I use. You could have a wet cloth too, whatever you prefer, or a paper towel and a little like bowl or jar of paint, or not paint, water to dip into, clean water, so you can clean up easily as you're going. I'm a very I don't want to say messy, but I'm a creative painter. I definitely get in there and get my hands into the project. So I definitely need to have wipes handy as I go, just to kind of continually wipe my hands, get the colors off so I'm not touching one piece to another and transferring any of the colors. It also is really handy if you accidentally get some paint on a part that you're not supposed to, or I find too for glue, when we're gluing, I and you push it and their glue comes out, so you can wipe that away nice and quick and easy. So that's one thing I always like to have handy. I find it makes the job a lot easier. All right, brown. I'm kind of considering doing the crackle on the brown parts as well, but with the brown undertone and a white top coat. When it cracks, it'll kind of look like the wood underneath. What do you think? I need feedback. No, I think I'm gonna try it because brown really isn't, I'm not much of a brown person. I love like a good wood stain, dark richness, but I think I might try the crackle. Do you think maybe a bit too much crackle? I don't think so. I don't think there's such thing. So I'm gonna do that. All right, so as we're waiting for the brown pieces there to dry fully before we go and put the crackle on, I'm gonna go ahead and paint the honey drips. I did have somebody ask about the honey drips on this piece. If you didn't want to include them, you don't have to. I'll show or talk reference to it later in the video too, but they are mostly meant to cover the connection of the legs to the hut. So it kind of hides that connection, so it just gives it kind of a cleaner, more smooth, streamlined finish. If you were to paint that connection piece, in mine, I did not put paint on that area. But if you were to put paint on that area, it would cover that. Or you could put anything else, like any other finish you wanted to. If you wanted to put a little green foliage down there or a bow or something, you could. Honestly, it does not need it. It would look perfectly fine without it. So if you're not a fan of the dripping honey, you don't have to put it on there. The other thing is to keep in mind, I did use the brushed antique gold for my honey. So it is a little bit more, it probably doesn't speak to everybody's taste is what I would say. I love it because it's got like this rich, bright brightness to it. And it just kind of, it gives it that like shimmery look, in my opinion. Once I picked that, that was it. There was no other option on the table. So I'm happy with how it turned out. But if you wanted it to not be on there, by all means, that's the nice thing about these boards. You can totally make them your own, whether it's choosing different paint colors, adding extra embellishment, leaving some of the embellishment pieces off. It's totally up to you. All right, so now I'm working on the little bee pieces. This is kind of a funny thing we'll see here in a little bit. You saw there, I just picked up the other piece to kind of like line it up. Where do I have to put my yellow or gold? Again, I used the same gold that I used on the honey for my bee. So I was just lining it up to see where those pieces would show through. We will see here in a little bit that I didn't really need to do that. Now the brown is dry. The beautiful thing about acrylic paints, they dry pretty darn quick. So I always find by the time I go through and do, paint one paint of all these little pieces, it's ready for the second. So like I said, now it's dry enough. I'm flipping and I'm doing it on the back side. The little pieces I'm using to hold on, those little notches, that's the piece that's going to go through that slot on the base. And I'm using it to hold on to because I'm also trying to remind myself I don't need to paint that piece because I don't want to add any extra thickness to it. These are cut so perfectly that they just click in there like nice and smooth. And if you did one coat on it, it would probably be fine. But if you got it a little too gunky with paint, it might start to be difficult to push in there. We want to leave room for the glue and make sure we get a good connection with that when we go and glue it all together. So again, this painting the other side of the base, we want to go nice and smooth over those slots and try not to get any drips in there. Make sure you cover up all those edges, and after you've painted on your top coat, it's always good to go back through and look at those edges to make sure there's no drips or excess paint that has come off your brush onto them. That's always where it wants to go. So nice and smooth, just kind of make sure we get all the extra paint off of there. Again, if you were doing just a solid coat of paint and you weren't doing the crackle, I would suggest doing 2 coats just for optimal coverage. And again, especially on those edge pieces. Because I've chosen to go down the crackle route, I am only going to do 1 coat for the base. It does not have to be perfect. It's going to be minimally shown. And the second coat on top with the crackle effect is going to kind of cover any imperfections. So now I'm going through and I'm painting that top roof line on the back. Again, like I said before, you do not have to do this extra detailing to it. I just chose to take that time to do it. It's just what I wanted to do. And as you can see, my straight line is not perfect. I'm gonna try and do better on the top coat. I'll show you guys what I end up doing down the line for that. But really, realistically, most cases when we are displaying our pieces, nobody's going to see the back. It's going to be up against a wall, on a shelf, or something, right? So very rarely is it out in the open where you can see front and back. So keep that in mind. And again, I just wanted to, I don't know why, it just, to me, I was doing that roof line the same color on the back as it will be on the front. Now, this is the front of the beehive. In the instructions from Paisleys and Polka Dots, you will see the breakdown of how to paint the front of it. Again, that roof line that I'm doing, I did not really need to do that, but I had some excess paint on those edges, and I just kind of did a quick paint down of it. All of these little pieces that are on the left there with the little hexagon and the slats, those are all going to go on the front of our piece, and it's going to cover it. So we don't really need to paint it. We just need to do the edges and the back of the main hut. So here I am. I've got my black paint out now, and I am painting that little bee that is the top layer of the bee. So all of that gets painted black. It's so cool to see the little details and how these cuts sandwich together to create a very detailed little bee. So that one I just went through and did black. Again, making sure you're covering all those edges. So again, we just want to make sure we're getting in all the little edges there, covering it real good. I did switch to a smaller paintbrush for the detailing of this, just so I could get in there and get the paint where it needs to go. Move it to the side, let it dry. This is the fun part here. I picked up my little bee to go finish painting it, and then I realized, oh, I painted it on the wrong side. So Paisleys and Polka Dots has done a very nice engraving on the bee to show you exactly where the top part is gonna sit. So those are guidelines for placement, also for painting, right? So having that grooved design in there is giving us our lines to paint within. So we can now look at that and go, okay, I'm going to paint my yellow here, here, and here, and the white for the wings, or blue, or whatever color you choose. will go in those areas. So had I looked at it a little bit more before painting, I wouldn't have had to be guessing and holding the other piece up. So, and in the instructions, it does show that too. So that's just a miss by me. Okay, now we're going and we're putting Crackle of the Crackle medium on all the brown pieces. So the back of this one is not painted because that's going on to the Bee Hut. So we're going to go and do Crackle on the legs and the base. Again, try not to get that medium on that notch or in the little slots of the base. If you do get stuff in there, Julie from Paisleys and Polka Dots, she recommends nail files for sanding. They work extra great because you can get into the small slots like that and just sand any extra paint that might have got down in there out. So if you do have a piece that is not wanting to connect, you can do that. Now I have put together at this point quite a few of her pieces, and I have never had an issue with the connecting of anything like that. But it does, accidents happen, and sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves. It could happen. If it does, no cause for panic. Try and get as much of the excess paint out of those slots. And then just keep that in mind when you go to put it together. If you got too much paint somewhere, you can always sand it down. All right, so here we're doing the medium again, the Crackle, clear coat. Like I said, the crackling effect takes a little bit longer because you're doing an extra coat in there. If we weren't doing the Crackle, we would be on to our second coat of paint now, and then it would be pretty much done. It does take an hour between application of the Crackle medium to actually doing your top coat. Now, because this piece has quite a bit of little components to it, I found by the time I was done painting everything and circled back, it was all ready for the crackling. Again, the clear coat painting is easy because it's clear and you're just putting it on. It's more that dry time. So if you didn't want to have to wait that dry time, if you just wanted to get it all done, then maybe the crackling isn't going to be the route that you go. So here we are painting again. I've got to work on my in-screen. I apologize, you guys. There we go. I kind of took notice to it, but I could have done a better job. I will work on that, I promise. But I'm just going in with the white now. I'm making my wings on my bee white. So I'm coloring in those lines that are so nicely put there for us. And then I'm now redoing the yellow or gold. My choice again is the gold. So I'm just going in and putting the gold where you're going to see it. I just love how this little detail, it's so simple, right? But when it goes together, it just looks so great. Like, it is just so perfect. And this could not have been a more perfect piece for this stitch. I'm so excited and happy how it all came together, and I cannot wait to see everybody finish theirs for the stitch along. So it is going to be really fun to see how everybody chooses to finish theirs, what colors you guys choose, and all of that. So like I said, I honestly love the Crackle so much. So this, I actually changed my mind on the top color I'm going to use. So that's the one that I ended up going with. Again, I got all my supplies from Micheals, and this one just was a little bit lighter, and it matched my blue in the design just like perfectly. So of course I picked the piece with the cutouts to do first with my first Crackle. When you're applying your top coat. So it's been an hour now between when I did my first pieces, and I'm now going and doing the crackle. So I'm starting on those edges, like recommended. So trying to just one smooth stroke on my edges. And then when we go to apply our paint onto this top surface, we're going to want to do it in, make sure you've got a nice amount of paint on your brush, not too much, but that there's enough, because you want to be able to do one smooth stroke across the board without having to go back and forth. So I did go back that way on that one, and it kind of turned out, I think I was just lucky in that stroke. We'll see as I kind of exploring the back and forth here. So see, I didn't have enough on my brush there, and I had to go back and kind of do it, and then I was not too, okay, and then we go there, and it's right up here where I'm like, there's just not quite enough coverage, and I try to go for one more swoop. It was too much time in between. This stuff starts to crack almost immediately. So I did grab a small paintbrush, and I just tried to kind of like hide that, because that is like right on the edge where you are going to see it. A lot of this is going to be covered with our stitch. Keep that in mind when you're painting. Doesn't have to be perfect. This effect as well, it does not have to be perfect by any means. It's meant to be weathered and worn. I did find when I was doing it that I kind of had, I'm not used to this effect yet, I guess. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I want to do it all the time. But it did take me a little bit to not, like, to get out of that perfectionist kind of mindset. Not that I am by any means, but it was a little harder to let the abstract rustic, what it wanted to do, come through sometimes. So, and it was, my first time doing this crackle. So I definitely figured out that we want to do nice, smooth, try and do it in one stroke. You leave it too long and go back and try and fix it or manipulate it after it's already been on there a bit, it will start to kind of pull it up. It does, you can see it start crackling almost immediately. So again, I'm just going through and doing the edges. I found doing the top coat, it was easiest to put the pieces down to be able to get that nice smooth stroke from end to end without having to go back and repaint over the areas that I already had painted. Now, before I did my painting with the crackle, I did watch Paisleys and Polka Dots tutorial on crackle paint. Very good tips, lots of information on how to use the crackle medium. And so some of that I did pick up and learn. And then, like I say, as you go and do it yourself, you learn your own ways of doing it, or how it actually, what kind of movement and time you have with the paint as well. So it's a lot of trial and error, like anything, right? So I do find, though, that honestly this is such an easy technique because it does not need to be perfect. I love stuff like that. If I can have something that's easy to do, and that worn, weathered look that you get from this, where it looks like it's been around for a while and the paint has started to chip and crackle, I'm all here for that. So I love how this all came together, and I absolutely think it was the perfect choice for this piece. The brown might seem like a weird color choice for under the white, but it really does give that like aged, weathered look of wood. It gives it a nice, soft, warm undertone to kind of show through. And yeah, it really does look like, a wood piece that has been painted white, and over time the paint has started to crack and chip. On some of the smaller pieces, it's a little bit more, it's kind of hard to just do that one stroke, but here you can see how it is starting to, I tried to show how it's starting to, it'll hopefully get in focus, there we go, starting to crackle right away. So it really does work like right in front of your eyes. And then this, it does not take long again to dry, your typical drying time for your acrylic paint as per normal. I would say one of the biggest things with doing this painting is with a piece like this where you've got lots of different pieces you're putting together, as opposed to if you were painting it already, like if you glued it together first and then went and painted it, which a person could absolutely do, but I'm following the way Paisleys and Polka Dots recommends doing these. And for something particular like this where we are doing different colors, it's not all one color, I do find it easier to do separate like this. But the biggest part is just with the 3 coats that we're putting on to try and not get those connection pieces covered. You can see here as I'm painting, it is harder to kind of get that even. I've got some areas that look a little bit thinner with paint and some that are a little bit thicker. In all honesty, though, that does add to the look of this. You know, again, we're going for imperfect, really, with more of that worn and weathered look. So if some areas are a little bit thinner and thicker, then it's not that big of a deal. White is always, this is a darker color underneath the white, so it's going to show stuff like that. So just make sure, I guess, when you're painting, if you want it to be more of a smooth and consistent, that you're dipping your brush and collecting enough paint on your brush at the same like evenness every time. So trying to make it your paintbrush just as wet as the strokes before, and maybe like some, as I'm watching back here, I would say some of my strokes I've tried to go and continue with this same paint on the brush like I normally would when I'm painting, and I'm not re-dipping the brush in the paint every time. Again, there, see how easy it is when you touch it, going over it again to lift that paint up. The crackling really does start right away, so the quicker you can move, the better, but also, like, by all means, take your time. It is easy, and I don't really think you can mess this up too bad because of the end style that you're going for. I would just suggest trying it on a scrap if you're worried about that, and seeing how it actually does kind of move and manipulate as you do it. I found for every part that I did pull the paint back up, I was able to go back in and work it enough to stand to my liking. So I was happy with the end outcome. So now it's dry enough. We're going back in and doing the back sides of these pieces. And you can see here I'm doing more quick brush strokes. I'm working really quick as opposed to just doing that one smooth flat stroke. So I probably grabbed a couple different, like after doing it a bit more, I realized, okay, if I'm not going to do like one full stroke on it, I can do my usual painting style with the quick motion there and just be quick about it. So the quicker you move, the better when you're putting on that top coat with the crackle. Otherwise, just do a nice, soft, smooth one stroke, and that's it. Don't go back. Again, Paisleys and Polka Dots goes over that really good in her tutorial, so I definitely recommend heading over there, especially if you are wanting to do the crackle but unfamiliar with it. And again, best thing to do. Just play around and practice. Grab some scrap wood, some other finishing pieces, and try it out. So now we're gluing the bee together. I've got the Aleene's tacky glue there, which is super awesome because it dries clear. And for something like this with such little detail, I got too much glue on mine. So it is nice that I know it's going to dry clear and I don't have to worry about that. I put most of my glue just on the areas of this that are the thicker parts. There's a lot of thin detail there, and I didn't worry about getting glue on the whole surface. Another trick for gluing something like this together that would have been really smart is to just use a small paintbrush and put some glue on a palette and dip the paintbrush in the glue, and then you can get a nice smooth even coat on the back, and you're not going to get the squishing out like I did, because you're able to control the distribution of the glue better. I went in and I used my finger to kind of try and smear it around. Well, that's, not the best technique, if I'm being honest. I would recommend using a paintbrush. Do I know that that's the better way to do it? Absolutely. But sometimes the way I've just kind of naturally craft comes out, and things like that happen where I am using my finger instead of a brush. So I'm a very hands-on, get my hands dirty kind of crafter, as you can see. Isn't that the cutest bee? Oh, I love it. And I love that gold. It just makes it shimmer and shine. So this is the part where I was talking to you guys a little earlier about I wanted to get that cleaner and crisper line of the rooftop. So I decided to just put a little painter's tape over that roof line. Now when I go in and I do my base color, I can just go back and forth and not have to worry about trying to get that paint along that line. Remember, this is the back of the piece, so don't feel like you have to do that extra detailing of the roof line. You could just go and paint this all the same color. Nobody would know the difference. So now I'm going over top with that beach glass color. Again, starting on those edge pieces. We don't need to do the bottom edge of this because that is the notch that will be going into the base. I did paint that notch a little bit, and it is a very, very thin coat. You can see it's not on the full area there, but you can also see through that coat, right? It's not going to be enough to make a difference. It's more that thick coverage. Now, see, I didn't quite have enough on the end there, but I was able to go back and dip the brush and get it on in time before it started to pull away. So it's really, with this, you just got to try it. I know I've probably made it sound scarier than it is. It's really easy to do, and it's just either move in like real smooth, planned out motion, or just like go for it is really what I would say. You can see my paint distribution is not even. Do I notice that at all with the piece afterwards? No, I really don't. I probably could have benefited from having a little bit more paint on my brush there. Again, this is first time doing this, so I am truly happy. I don't know if there was something in the paint there or it started to pull up funny and I didn't like it, but I tried to go back and touch it up and it started to pull up a little bit. I kind of feel like I might have got a bristle or something on it at that point. I believe that's what happened. In the end, if you just let it, if you had a spot that did get kind of like goofy and blotchy, from my experience here, I was able to go back and just put enough paint on my brush and kind of cover and fix anything that was like that. But if you let it dry and then you went in and just kind of with a finer brush and just touched up some parts that maybe the paint got a little too like chipped away at or pulled back from and you didn't like that, you could let it dry and then just kind of go in and paint some extra paint where you want to. So I always say paint is very forgiving because you can just paint again and again and again. And I mean, really, if you did it a couple times and didn't like it, you could sand it down and do it again. So I never get scared with paint because I do always see it as being very versatile and able to change easily. So you can see how much it starts to crackle. Like it's so cool to watch it work in front of your eyes. And then as you leave it and it starts to dry, it does do more of the work too. But it's really cool to see how quick it actually works. So you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. Again, you can see in this lighting, you can see very good how uneven my... Let's see that took the painter's tape off and you got a perfect little line there. But you can see how uneven my painting really is. And it's still, I love this piece so much. Like, I'm not bothered by that. So a little bit of glue on those notches of the legs, and then we're going to insert that to the base. I didn't bother crackling the underside of my base either. I just did a regular paint job on that. So it just slides right in there, super easy. And again, I got a little extra that came out. So I've got my baby wipes handy and I just wipe off that extra. It is going to dry clear, but sometimes when it gushes out, you get that like bubble, and I don't want any like lumps or clumps on it. I want it to be nice smooth. So I just baby wipe quickly. There you go. So this is the part I was talking about. So the middle slot, the big slot, is still there for the beehive to go into the stand. And the other two are the where we just put our legs into. So that's the part that the honey is going to eventually cover up here. So I guess I forgot to film the part where I painted the back of the white on the roof line. But I found that really easy to just kind of go in and freehand after putting that painter's tape down, and it kind of created that like nice edge there. So I was able to just take my paintbrush and kind of slide down those edges and do that coverage. We're getting into the final steps here. So we are sanding down the edges. Again, I really love anything that has that kind of like rustic, worn, weathered look. So for my personal home decor and my personal liking, I am choosing to sand down some of the edges to kind of give it more of that raw look that it has been around for a while. The nice thing with this too, having that undertone paint in there, is that by sanding it, you can really start to pull some of that color through even more on the edges and stuff. So you can sand it down and get some more of that brown color showing through for the base here. And I love, 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 love that. It just adds more character and texture to the piece. I'm using a nail file. The nail files that I had were just the cheap, like more disposable, I guess, ones, as opposed to like, that good thick nail file that you can get when you go for pedicure or manicure. They give you the file. Something like that is way more gritty and easier to use. These ones were just cheap, disposable, and I found them to be kind of not as gritty as what I would normally have used. My other one was just time for a new one, so I picked up these thinking they would be better. They come in different sizes, which is super handy. They are great for the finer details and stuff. If you've got like for the honey, say, and you're trying to get in all those nooks and crannies, or even the little hexagon detail. And if you did get some in the on the slots, you could get the nail file in there real easy. But the thing with these, they just didn't have that same kind of grit power as the other, like the other ones that I'm used to using. So I would recommend getting like a, not that they're expensive, but getting one that's more meant for like repeat use, as opposed to these cheaper ones that are like more for disposable. Again, they do work good. It's just, it took a little bit more oomph to get it. Perfect for the detailing, the smaller areas, but, and see here, I'm actually using the nail file a little bit just to I took down some of that white so that you could get a little bit more of the brown. But doesn't that just, I feel like this step really knocks that crackle finish up a level. So again, we're going around just to get all the edges. I think at one point here I do end up switching to some sandpaper. So whatever you prefer. For this portion, like I probably should have pulled out my sandpaper sooner, because this is a nice big piece. It's easy and quicker to do. The nail files are great for like the round edges, the small details, like I said before. And here comes the, sandpaper. So we can really start to get some of that off and really add that extra texture to this piece. For the back of the piece, like this is really beautiful back of the piece. I love the colors of this piece. They came out perfect match for the stitch that we put on the front. I think when I said I missed showing you guys the painting of the roof line on the back here, I also must have painted the little black pieces on the front of the board. Again, Paisleys and Polka Dots has that all like mapped out and shown very well in the instructions. But there's the two front pieces that go on the hut here, and that will have a cutout. So the top peak has the hexagon cutout, and then the bottom one has a little cutout there as well. So behind those cutouts, you can choose any color you want. I went with black. That's what they had on theirs, and I wanted that same look and effect. So I did the black behind those pieces, and I just did one coat. You don't really need more than that. It's just for that detailing. So now we're going to go do the other pieces that are going on top. This is the roof line. Again, I painted that whole front of that roof line brown. Absolutely not necessary. You just need to do the edges of the piece. I sort of said before in the video that like for these tutorials are more come craft with me style. Where I'm filming as I'm going along and doing it. For this particular piece, I had a lot of, like, the kids were around in the house. My house is not very quiet most of the time. So I really don't get a lot of, like, filming opportunities. I think, and in order to get tutorials and stuff done, I think I'm going to have to do a lot more of this kind of style where I'm doing it, I film it, and then I go back and talk over it. All that being said, it's quite the process. Not only is it a lot of trying to trim the stuff out that doesn't necessarily need to be there, but it's also a lot of going back and then trying to record again at a quiet time in the house. So I want to do as many of the videos as I can. It's just sometimes so hard to find that quiet space. And my office and workspace is our unfinished basement. So everything, even when the kids are upstairs playing, it is just echoes and it's loud, and I don't mind the noise in the house at all. It's happy noise, but it is hard to get anything filmed. So I hope you guys don't mind the style and the way that these come together. But like I say, it's very hard to find time. And sometimes I've had to do a couple here and there, piece it together between day and day, depending on schedules and stuff like that. But I love doing projects like this and anything that allows me to be creative. So I'm here to share it with you guys as much as I can. But if you have any feedback and stuff, like I definitely, oh, see, this is me showing you the inside there. That file was so made that getting in there and getting those edges sanded down so much easier. But yeah, if you guys have any feedback for me, what you like and what you think I could trim out or you don't need, let me know. The comment section's always open. I would love to know what you guys think and if these videos are helpful, or, you know, do you want them shorter? I'm still trying to figure it all out. So I know myself looking at it and watching back, it's a lot of me going, oh, I could have done that different or better. I'm trying to keep my workspace tidy as I go, but like I say, I'm a get my hands in there and just make a mess and see what comes out of the mess. All right, so we've got everything sanded and we are ready to start assembling. I've put the glue on that piece maybe already. I guess I did. I did, as you can see too, like there's a few things on my desk here that are from other projects. I was doing painting all at once, so this video was a lot to go through all those different clips and find what was supposed to be part of what. So I've learned from that, one project at a time, and try and cut down as much as I can in the process. But okay, so we're doing the assembly now. So we've got our glue, we're putting it on. Like I said too before, I think for stuff like this, it would be way, way, way better probably to put your glue on your palette and use a paintbrush. And then you're getting the glue where you want it and everything too. So just making sure that that's gonna be lined up side to side and touch that top roof line good enough. Little press to get it down. I love that little hexagon detail at the top there. And then these are our, I was just trying to check to see, like, as far as lining up Crackle to this side and that side, like I didn't want to have one side that had all the heavier parts and light, so I just placement to kind of make sure it was what I wanted. If there was any imperfections, like where do I want them to kind of sit and stuff. That looks good. We're gonna go and put glue all on the back. I just love the detailing of this piece, is just so perfect. Very, very cute piece. And very simple to put together too. Like, the Crackle takes that extra little step. In my opinion, it's totally worth it. And I think I'm making it probably sound more like a bigger step than it is. But you guys tell me. I know there's a ton of people who are excited to get started on the bee farm sale and got their pieces already. and there's supplies. So as you guys go through and paint them and get your finishing pieces put together, let me know what you think of the Crackle, if it's something you'll do with other projects. I went through and did quite the sanding on the edges there so that that detail of the slats really shows up too. You can see the raw wood kind of coming through, the color of the wood. So isn't that the cutest though? Look how good that came together, you guys, and so easy to do. So now I'm just putting some glue on that notch that's going to go in that center slot on our base. Okay, now you guys can see too that little tiny slot at the front. That's where the honey drips are going to go over and cover. And if you were to have painted that, you wouldn't be seeing it as that dark. That's the dark of the wood edge, but you could easily paint that if you didn't want to put the honey on there. We're going to get in there and wipe some of that glue that came through. I love that. This is just the greatest piece. It really, really is. Paisleys and Polka Dots has some amazing, if you guys have not checked out their website, yeah, be prepared, because she has so many amazing displays, but also extra little decor things like for tiered trays and very thoughtful creations. Like her finishing, the way she does the extra detailing is just, it's next level. I love it. And like I say, here I go pulling out my instructions again to kind of see where she put the honey drips on her piece. So we've got the one drip on the top roof line, and then that's where the bee is attached to, and then we've got the honey drip on the front base as well, and then a tiny little piece on the back to cover that notch. I think this would be really cute with some, like, if you put some greenery or along the bottom of the base, it would be super cute too. So please, anybody who's finishing this piece, you got inspiration from this video, even if you got inspiration from this video for other finishings, please, please, please tag me so I can see what you guys are doing, because it is my favorite thing to see the full design come together with its finishing piece. And I really, really love to see the different creative things that people choose and do. That's how we all learn and grow too. I'm doing this, you know, my own particular way that meets my style and my personal tastes, but everybody's is different. So just because I love this finish and this color doesn't mean it's going to speak to everybody. It doesn't mean that this piece can't be used. You can use it to make it suit your needs and your likes, which is, I think, the coolest. So this is the honey spill that I was talking about, the drips off the front. See how perfectly that just covers that little connection piece? And then we're not going to see that. Again, you can totally put paint over top of it. I know I'm a burnt out record, aren't I? But so we're going to cover that up. And I feel that the detail, like those small little details, is really, like, that's what takes a finishing piece like this to the next level, is the attention to detail. Julie's always keeping that in mind when she's creating these kinds of finishing pieces, streamlining it, making it look like as high-end, top-notch as you can, right? I just love that it comes unfinished and you're able to put your own taste onto it. So if you're going to want it to match a specific piece, you make it match that piece. If you want it to be completely neutral, so you can switch out different cross-stitch finishings on it, then you do that. It's totally up to you. You can get multiple pieces and finish them all in the same style and colors, so that you have a collection of decor pieces in your house that all like match or play off each other. I love stuff like that, to be able to do that and have that personal, put your personal touch and taste onto something like this. All right, so I did go around and just kind of like buff up the edges of the honey. You guys could choose any color you want for that honey. If gold's not your color, you just pick a different color, do a nice golden honey color. All right, so we're gonna just a little bit of glue. This Aleene's tacky glue is the best, as we all know, right? Works for everything. All right, so there we get that drip on there. Make sure it's all lined up. How cute is that? Love it. And then we've just got the one little piece for the back. Yeah, we want to cover up that connection piece there. So a little bit of glue. Again, this just goes to show you the level of like finish that she puts into, the thought that she puts into her finishes. Adding that extra little piece that's on the back that, I mean, come on, most of us aren't going to see that, right? It's going to be up against a wall or a shelf, but it's there. It's there for when you pick it up and you look at it. All right, so here we are into the next day. And everything is dry. Everything is looking great. I'm so happy with how this board turned out. The crackle, the detailing of those slats on there, it's perfect. It matches the wings of that bee. Like, the color is superb. Absolutely love it. As you can see in the background there, I changed my backer. Look at that crackle. So pretty. I changed the backer board to black. I originally painted that white. Once I got the board, the whole thing done, I decided to go with a black. And I'm going to use that as the backer for the stitch. I'm not going to put anything around my stitch. I'm just going to finish it onto a mat board and put it right onto this piece, because this piece is so perfect. I thought the black was a little bit nicer to make that stitch pop, and it kind of went with, you know, tied in that black of the bee and all those things. So for me, I decided that was going to work better. You don't see a lot of it. The stitch finishes to 5 by 5, and that board is 5 inches or 5 3/8 of an inch by 5 3/8. So you just get a tiny little bit. That's why I decided I just wanted it to be black. I thought about doing some trim and stuff, but you really wouldn't see that board if I did. So if you wanted to not put that board on there, you don't have to. You could just finish your stitch and do a magnet or glue it directly on, whichever you prefer. You don't have to have that backer behind it at all. It's there to use if you want, and if you're not going to, save it for another project and just put your stitch directly, like finish it on your foam core or mat board, and then attach it to the house with some trim around it, whatever speaks to you. I hope you guys enjoyed this and it was helpful. Again, please feel free to reach out in the comments, and if you have any questions, if there's something you want more detail on, let me know. I'm more than happy to help the best I can in any way. Thank you so much for joining me today with this. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you can find me at Erin Elizabeth Designs. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit that like button. I hope you guys enjoyed the beef farm sale.